views expressed on this program are those of the hosts, guests, and callers, and are not necessarily those of this station, its management, or other advertisers. You're listening to Transformation Talk Radio.
Hi, welcome. This is Dr. John DeMartini. This is one of the most amazing and inspiring shows that you can listen into. If you want to be on the edge of your seats, if you want to open up your heart, if you want to expand your mind, and you want to meet incredible people, stay tuned because you're just about to experience a transformative radio show that will change your life. And you're listening to the Dr. Pat Show that's coming up right next.
The following audio is via a Skype call.
Welcome to the Dr. Pat Show. Talk radio to thrive by. Powerful, inspiring, and coming to you live, bringing you stories of people like you and me busting through and living life full out. Get ready to dare to wonder what your life would be like if you knew you could not fail. Hey, everybody. It is so great to be connecting with all of you. I'm Dr. Pat. You're listening to us here on the Dr. Pat Show in Transformation Talk Radio. And yes, for those of you that somehow, I don't know how you did it, you got the URL transformationradio.fm, and apparently we already have an app up there for that. Yep, that's what you're doing. Why? Because, yeah, we're just flipping a bunch of switches here, there, and everywhere. Well, my guest today knows a little bit about flipping the switches. Joining me here, she is also the host of the Christine Upchurch Show, but more importantly, she is one of these folks that made a decision early on that she was going to be in service of creating a better world. Whether you know her as a writer, a teacher, inspirational speaker, energy healer, the host of the Christine Upchurch Show, it doesn't matter what you know her in, what capacity, or when you've seen her. She's someone that understands that the journey begins right here within each and every one of us, and has brought forth many conversations about what it's like to say yes to ourselves. Today's show is one of them. Making a difference in a crazy world. What? Yeah, that's what it's about. Christine, it's great to have you here. Welcome to the show.
Thank you, Pat. And I'm so glad that you didn't say that I had flipped a switch because, Betty's over there laughing. Thinking,
she's the ultimate flipper switcher.
I love to help facilitate the switches getting flipped on, but not having people flip their switches.
I know, oh my gosh. It's really interesting because we got a whole bunch of people flipping switches in the world today.
Oh my goodness. And I do it myself sometimes. Yes, absolutely.
Yeah, I shared during the last show, I got really confused this morning. I don't usually watch the news, but somehow I was busy doing whatever I was doing. And out of, the left corner of my left ear, I was listening to somebody on some channel say how cutting 800 ridiculous amount of millions or billions in Medicaid is compassionate. Yeah. And I had a little meltdown over that.
Yeah. It's whether we're watching the news or not, we're getting affected by the things that are coming up in our world. And we end up either hearing about them or, I've been into the energetics of things for many years. We're being affected by them because there are other people who know about them. They're not only happening, but people are reacting to them, and we tune into that. So it's, and there's a whole lot of stuff for us to deal with and process because we have such, worldwide media. We are so connected that we get exposed to it.
Mm-hmm. I want to ask you this question because you said something really key, and that was, you're somebody that does tap into energy. And I want to ask you about your view or what you hear from the people you work with, the current state of the world. Is it Memorex or is it real?
Well, I think scientists and spiritual gurus have been talking about that and trying to explore that for a number of years. But anyway, it's funny because I think that things have changed. It's kind of like from some people's perspective, I've heard them say the world is a far better place now because once upon a time, we'd be carrying our swords or our guns and there would be conflict and everywhere around the world. And it was hard to live in peace. And there are many of us who actually live, within a certain amount of safety. Of course, we have, we think we're living in safety and then we realize we really aren't. So in some ways, it's better now than it once was. But in other ways, it's actually really intense. It's both live and Memorex because it gets replayed over and over again through social media and the news, and we hear about it from friends because we're connected worldwide. We hear about all these things. We see visual images of them. It's not like hearing about some attack in a nearby village that you hear about 3 months later, in your travels, but rather you see images of it, and images get us really, really deep. So it feels like it may be Memorex in some sense because it's a recording of it, but in some ways we're processing it as though it is very real.
Yeah. I want to ask you from your perspective, is it a correct statement to say crazy world?
Well, I think that there is divine order, but really as we are humans experiencing some of these things, at least at times, I think it's going to feel crazy. It's tough. It takes a highly evolved person to view the world in it as though it is perfect every moment of every day.
Yeah. Yeah. Here's the thing I love. I was looking at I was just browsing on your website and I prepare for shows. And I just thought, wait a minute. Living more vibrantly. Who doesn't want to do that?
Right.
But here's the question. I know we're going to talk about it today. What is getting in the way? What is the challenge? What challenges are we facing here in this accelerated pace and this mass plugging in that we're doing to the crazy? I mean, Saturday Night Live, covers it pretty well, but, how about us?
It's challenging because we by what we get exposed to, we get challenged to step into our authenticity and to stay in our authenticity and not get knocked out. It's like we try to find inner peace, but we're in this world where we're getting faced, getting exposed to all this lack of peace. It's challenging, tightrope to walk. It really is. And I don't know that I answered your question. Tell me again what your question was.
Well, I'm hoping Benny is going to pull the Patsy Cline song "Crazy" for us. And, the reason that it's important to really take a perspective is because it wears on us. It wears on our humanity. It's not like we can sit and see the headlines of an Ariana Grande concert and the death and the devastation of people, innocent people, and not scratch our heads a little bit. So maybe crazy is too harsh.
Right.
Right.
Although I think that it's crazy is harshness in a sense because it is indicating that there is no rhyme or reason to it. And even though there is random violence and it's hard for us as humans to perceive any kind of divine order to something like that, or some of the craziness within the politics of the United States, we're at a stage right now where we are actually viewing on a very massive scale the shadow side of our world. And for anybody who's done their inner work, who's gone into therapy, who's exploring this, like Jungian shadow work is about looking at those parts of ourselves that our ego disowns. Our ego is ignoring, suppressing, avoiding, because it makes us look bad. It's the weak, it's the vulnerable, it's the bad behavior, it's those aspects of ourselves we don't want to accept. And often what we'll do in that situations, we'll actually project it onto other people. And, part of becoming whole, part of finding inner peace relates to becoming aware of that shadow, exploring it, healing aspects that helped create it, and integrating it into our wholeness. So I think what's happening right now is, even though it seems like crazy, it's really aspects of the shadow side, the collective shadow side, that we are actually facing on a daily basis. And we're offered an opportunity to become aware, explore it, and to see if we can heal and integrate it so that we can create a more peaceful whole.
Yeah. We're going to talk about this and much more today. One of the things that I love about our chat today about making a difference in a crazy world is understanding the point that whether we are experience a darker side of the collective shadow or not, we still can make a difference. And that's what you're going to share with all of our listeners today. We can make a difference, but what is it that we should know? What should we be able to experience when we're dealing with the collective shadow side of the world? And if you're a youngster and you're thinking, oh, the world has never been like this before, wait till we come back. As Christine and we're going to talk story. We're going to talk story. There is a reason for all those 60 songs that came out. Stay tuned. We'll be right back.
Crazy, I'm crazy for feeling so lonely. I'm crazy.
Take your own journey with the angels with Claire Candy Huff's Heaven Sent Guided Angel Meditation CD, letting go of concerns and living in the now. This beautiful CD walks listeners through practical exercises to help free them from the burdens, worries, and concerns of daily life.
Walking a quarter of the way across the bridge, you see a bright, emerald green light and sense a loving presence. This is Archangel Raphael's green healing energies, nourishing and revitalizing you. Take a moment now to bathe in this green healing light.
Giving you much more than just relaxation and stress release, this wonderfully narrated CD provides vivid visualization, soothing and inspiring music, and an angel's choir that will bring you peace, clarity, and a newfound awareness. Visit angelhealinghouse.com today.
What is a brilliant culture? And how do we create them? Why are they important? Claudette Rowley has created a breakthrough 5-step process to help you design a culture that is authentic, innovative, and successful. Learn how to create change with Cultural Brilliance Radio, the DNA of organizational excellence, and Claudette Rowley. To learn more or work with Claudette, visit ClaudetteRowley.com.
Be unstoppable. Who do executive women count on for up-to-date information on everything from stilettos to being heard in the boardroom? To achieve excellence, you must first take control of your life and develop a successful strategy with the Unstoppable Diva. Tune in to Up or Out with Connie Fife, Mondays 5 p.m. Eastern, as she cuts through the BS to guide you to become bold, connected, and unstoppable. For more information, visit uporout.com.
Treat the body and expand the soul on June 1st with Lynn Brown. Imagine 3 days in a hand-built log home nestled in the Cascade Mountain. Activate the collaboration between the body and spirit and allow the accelerated connection as one of the most powerful ways to light up your cells, honor the body's needs in this all-inclusive event. Visit lynnmbrown.com or call 206-931-7356.
You, yes you, can be the highest version of yourself. Wellness coach and natural beauty expert Dr. Agnes Frenkel is on a mission to help you play the game of your life. Win in vibrancy, health, and beauty. Because you deserve it. Dr. Agnes goes beyond the limits in her personal coaching sessions to revolutionize health and wellness. Now is the time to unleash your true power. For more information, visit dragnesfrankel.com.
Tune in to The Truth is Funny with Colette Steffen each Wednesday at 8 a.m. Pacific, 11 a.m. Eastern on TransformationTalkRadio.com. This hit show will have you thinking outside the box and riding the wave of infinite potential. Join Colette on the Higher Self Network, inspiring listeners to shine their brilliance and ensure success while roaring with laughter as they recognize the humor of the giant cosmic joke. Visit thetruthисfunny.com.
So blue. I knew you'd love me as long as you
Oh my God, that song is just like, it's just like, oh my goodness, talk about the shadow side. If you want to get a sense of the real darkness in my life, having grown up pretty much depressed most of it, just play a few of those songs. Oh, but this is not about me today. This is about making a difference in a crazy world with Christine Upchurch. And yeah, Christine, what's the best way for people to find out more about you, but also tell us about your radio show?
Okay. My website is ChristineUpchurch.com. That's CHRISTINE. Then UPCHURCH, like up and church together.com. Also, you can follow me on Facebook. I post a lot of stuff on my private page. I've got a couple of professional ones, including the radio show page, but I end up posting everything on my personal page. Just Christine Upchurch. I've got no middle name. I'm the one that's listed under Seattle. And you can hear me every Friday and other times as well on podcasts here on TTR as well as KKNW and some other places as well.
Yeah. And, you know, for those of you out there, it is an extremely amazing show and radically popular. For those of you that are still trying to call into her show from last week, yeah, maybe you can get in this week because none of us could get in. Those phone lines were so jammed and the instant messages and everything. But that's because, you know, you are showing up authentically. You're sharing what's going on in the world, but also what's going on with you. That's what this segment's about, right?
Yeah, well, yeah. God help me. God help the world, you know. You know, it's funny, Pat, because with most guests, you know, as I've discovered as a radio talk show host for, 5 years now, and you for, a decade, 15 years, however long it's been.
Yeah, it is.
We get media kits from whoever's going to be on our show, and there are talking points, you know, questions and stuff like that. And you and I have had so many conversations that all the various things that I teach and do, from the energy healing and the 111 activation to the vibration of change, to the top 10 myths about spirituality, all that stuff we've talked about before. So what happens when I'm going to have a conversation with you, I'm thinking, you know, what do I want to talk about right now? What's relevant to me? What I might be blogging about? What could Pat and I really have a good chat about? And so it's like something new and different. So I'll have to create some notes and you and I will share some talking points. And so we sort of have this back end of things that people don't see or know about, you know, generally. So, you know, typically I do it several days in advance. And so this weekend, I was going to write down these talking points about, you know, how we can make a difference in this world, you know, despite this shadow. Well, a guy I went to high school with who's a real sweetheart. He had a 20-year-old son who was a Duke student who, you know, I think was home for the summer, and he went missing, and he'd been missing for almost a week. And I heard about it, right? And I you know, sending out energy and prayers, and there are, you know, all sorts of people sort of, you know, working hard to try to find this guy. And, you know, I'm getting ready to put together my notes, and I find out that they found his body. That this rising star at Duke, you know, who was a real sweetheart, was dead. And they really don't know yet, at least I have not heard yet, about, what the cause of death was. They don't think it was trauma. They don't think foul play was involved, but it's hard to know. He was at a party. He called a couple of brothers to say, can you please come pick me up? They were sleeping. They didn't pick up the phone, so he started walking home, and I don't know what happened to him.
Wow.
But here's this situation where, I've got a 22-year-old, their lives are changed dramatically and quickly, and it seems so incredibly senseless. So as a mom and as somebody who cares about this family, how do we make sense of it? How do I come up with wisdom to share with your audience when I'm feeling just so stuck in I have no idea that this seems so senseless and tragic. And then, so Monday afternoon, I'm like, I've processed enough of that to sit down and put down some of these talking points that have been in sort of coming through from my intuition, from my heart, from my own experiences to try to share with your listeners. And right before I was about to type up some notes, I heard about the horrific tragedy over in England with the concert goers. And, so there I was trying to process that. And I thought, when we're immersed in this kind of tragedy, how do we make sense of it? How do we find wisdom? And the thing is, when we're in the middle of it and experiencing the pain associated with it, we really have a hard time tapping into the wisdom. And if we do just think that we can go right into the wisdom, we're avoiding some of our human nature, because we have emotions. We're tribal in nature. We connect with the world, and we really do need to sort of process some of the human stuff before we can tap into that wisdom. And so finally, yesterday I'm ready to sit down and type up a few notes and get to the stage of share. How do I want to share the wisdom that I've gained with your audience? And all of a sudden there's this huge windstorm. Sunny day, then we have a huge windstorm. Trees are coming down. Power went out. It's like, okay, well, the universe is just saying, Chris, you're not quite ready. Yeah, you got a little bit more processing. So I didn't do it until late last night, because it was like, I was not ready yet. And I think that's one of the important things that we need to learn is we need to allow ourselves, those of us who are on our spiritual paths, we have a tendency to want to go to the positive thinking and want to, sort of shift the world based on that. But we really need to process whatever we're feeling and be in that authentic space, because it's from that space that is going to allow us to shift, and it's going to allow us to come forth more powerfully into the world.
Yeah. One of the things I want to ask you about, because it happened to you last night with the windstorm. Yeah.
Right.
And then it just happened to me with my office phone, because I'm doing the show from the studio in Bothell. And as many times as I've hit the do not disturb button, it obviously didn't take. And I'm thinking to myself, well, wait a minute, does energy have a way of directing us? Because this is the question, right?
Yeah.
Does energy have a way of directing us in the moment we are in to the exact place we're supposed to be, even if it's not what we thought?
Yeah. Well, Pat, I think and feel and perceive things in terms of energy, because that's where I've been the last 15 years as an energy healer and teacher. And even when I'm looking at more mainstream things and teaching more mainstream things about self-empowerment, I'm always thinking in terms of that subtle energy that we're always dealing with, whether we're conscious of it or not. And here's the thing, we all want to get from point A to point B. And you and I have talked about this when we've talked about the vibration of change, as I call it. And most of us do anything to stay away from where we're at right now, energetically. We complain about where we're at. We don't like where we're at. We want to be over there and not here. And by not allowing us to feel the pain, or not allowing us to experience what is on an energetic level, we can't get from point A to point B. Right? So sometimes the universe will kick us in the behind and say, get back to where you're at. Here you are trying to be over here. Like, there you are trying to write this stuff with wisdom, Chris. And what we're going to do is we're going to put you into the here and now of experiencing more of this pain, experiencing more of this being human in this crazy world, and feeling that and processing that. So, yes, I think the universe in its wisdom puts us back where we need to be. However, it's not always pleasant.
Right. Well, and we're going to talk about that when we come back from break, too, because, it's not always present. But have you found this? This is something that I've really been thinking about quite a bit lately, even though I haven't found it as pleasant. And certainly for me, what's the expression? I've been as healthy as a horse most of my life. Mm-hmm. And to come down with this mystery disease in 2004, that was a showstopper for me. But it didn't stop me from doing something very unconventional, this radio show. Mm-hmm. And I will tell you, Christine, here's what I'd love to talk about when we come back. Had I not gotten sick in the way I did get sick, I do not think I would be here today, because the pressure of everyone around me to not do this was so enormous. Do you know what I'm saying here?
Yep.
Yeah. So what do we do when we have to deal with other people's shadow side? How can we still help the greater whole? Isn't it interesting that we're not just battling ourselves, right? Mm-hmm. But we might even have to battle the energy of other people.
Right. And it won't be a bad battle, and we'll talk about that. And it really comes down to the energy of light and dark.
Yeah. And, just as a sidebar, when we come back, I don't know if we'll get to it, but why is it that out of all of the Marvel movies, the DC comic movies, why is it that Wonder Woman is getting the highest reviews and accolades of them all? I don't know. Is it because of the greater good and the greater whole? Stay tuned. We'll be right back.
To see your life from an angel's perspective, book a personal consultation with Claire Candy Huff, angelic walk-in angel Ariel at Angel Healing House. Candy provides intuitive counseling, Reiki, and angel readings in person in Los Angeles or nationally and internationally via phone or Skype. She will channel the practical tools you need to transform your life. Call now, 831-277-3716, or visit angelhealinghouse.com.
Do you feel that there's a bigger, better life for you? Is there anything holding you back from living the life you were meant to live? If you'd like to find your life's true purpose and calling, join the world's foremost authority on primal spirituality, David Carshare, in Becoming a Sun Radio, emotional and spiritual intelligence for a happy, fulfilling life. Tune in once a month to Becoming a Sun Radio with David Carshare on The Dr. Pat Show and Transformation Talk Radio. For more information, visit davidcarshare.com today.
On the cutting edge of the new mainstream, Christine Upchurch is passionate about bringing together science, psychology, and spirituality in a way that can be applied to our everyday lives for true transformation. The Christine Upchurch Show, stellar conversations to illuminate your journey, engages some of the most outstanding visionaries on the planet in lively dialogue to inspire you to become that bright light you're meant to be. Join Christine every Friday at 11 a.m. Pacific Time on KKNW, AM 1150, and Transformation Talk Radio.
When your body is awakened, your spirit comes alive. Dana Canetto is a transformational guide, embodiment coach, and spiritual mentor assisting women in realigning with their truth and embodying who they are by connecting to the wisdom of their body. Tune in every month on Transformation Talk Radio and the Dr. Pat Show Network for Body Divinity Radio with Dana Canetto. For more information on Dana and her services, visit danacanetto.com. That's DANACANNETO.com.
Calling all moms, it's time to awaken your vibrant, intuitive, loving self in every area of your life. Join host Debbie Pokornik as she shares thoughts, stories, and tools to help you stand in your power. Listen to Vibrant, Powerful Moms helping everyday women create extraordinary lives. Mondays at 2:30 Pacific, 5:30 Eastern. For more information about Debbie, visit empoweringenergy.com. That's empowering with letters NRG.com.
Hey everyone, welcome back. I'm so thrilled. I get to talk with my friend and colleague, Christine Upchurch, today. For those of you that want to find out more about her, you can certainly go to ChristineUpchurch.com. Also, don't forget to tune in on Friday at 11 on Transformation Talk Radio, or you can also tune in on KKNW or any of the devices that you have our app on. Today, she's taken on this conversation with me about making a difference in a crazy world. And, some of this comes from, if not a lot of it, right, Christine, from our own personal experiences.
Absolutely.
So the greater whole, some days we think, wait a minute, it's just me. Mm-hmm. I'm not going to make any difference in anything.
Yeah. And, when we view the world in terms of our connectivity and the subtle energy, the light, each of us does make a difference. And yet it can be very frustrating, because I think what's happened, particularly in the consciousness movement, is there's just been this concept of, well, in order to manifest what we want to manifest, and for many of us, it's a peaceful, loving, cooperative world, with fairness. We need to focus on it and you do our conscious manifestation techniques, whether it's affirmations, visualizations, and show up in a loving way and deal with our own inner crap, so to speak, And so what happens is we've been doing this, and some of us, there have been a lot of us who've been doing a whole lot of it. And yes, I do believe that there's more and more light on this planet. As this divine feminine energy comes through, as we're each of us are working harder to become more conscious. There's more light in the world, and yet what's happening is it's kind of like this light is illuminating this darkness, this shadow side. And so the question becomes, how do you coincide? How do they reside next to each other, and what effect do they have on each other? And it brings me back to many experiences I've had in the thousands of sessions I've done with energy healing. It's like, for whatever reason, soon after I started doing this back in 2003 or whenever it was, I started to see some of the light that was around my hands and some of the energy that would be released from people's bodies, or energy fields as I was doing the healing work. And in fact, I see this often see this sort of grayness coming out of people. It's almost like, not quite like smoke, but kind of like the energy you see coming off of, like when there's been rain on pavement, on a sunny, hot day, you see this steam kind of rising. It looks kind of like that, but sort of grayish. But I've actually also seen an actual entity exiting somebody, which surprised the heck out of me, because at the time I didn't believe in these negative entities. But what I learned to do as a healer, bringing light to the situation, was just to allow and accept and be present with that light. And then whatever transpired was absolutely fine. It was this sense of neutrality that was like the magic sweet spot of release and transformation. And so I remember being surprised this thing, and when I saw eyes, and it's like, well, isn't that interesting? And instead of being in a place of fear, instead of coming to this place of like, oh, I've got to figure out how to get rid of it, I just stood there with this light, and it exited. So I think that one of the things I've learned through this process has been that, whether we're doing energy healing or whether we're transforming our lives, there's this magic place of allowing what's in the moment, energetically allowing what's in the moment, and in training to that allows things to release and to shift. So it becomes very, like when we apply that kind of one-on-one to the collective, light versus dark, or light next to the dark, it's like if we can just come from this place of neutrality and continue to hold our light, continue to get us the best clarity we can have within ourselves, the best authentic, soul-driven self we can present, and be in neutrality instead of being in this blame and shame game, and instead of being in this place of, yes, we can go to a place of fear. I mean, that's part of being human. But instead of staying in that and pushing back against it and saying, oh, that's evil over there, instead of like, I wonder what shadow side that's representing in the collective. I wonder how it's touching upon my own shadow side. And if we can show up with that neutrality, so to speak, then it presents an opportunity for transformation that we wouldn't have otherwise if we're resisting.
Yeah. It really is an energetic digging our feet in the sand.
Yes.
Before we have even entertained a potential meaning, we're already digging our feet in the sand.
Right. Yeah. And Pat, I think it's so important for us to stop working so hard to seek meaning. Because from some of these, relating to some of these crazy events, horrific events, I don't think as humans in human form we're ever going to come to a place of understanding the meaning. And it's really kind of like our ego trying to want to control everything. Because if I can find meaning about this over here, then of course I'm not going to need to experience that because I don't need that lesson or whatever it is. Kind of like it's like us, our ego trying to play God. But if we can somehow process what we need to process in terms of our feeling of, connection and sadness about, the state of what people are experiencing, what animals are experiencing, what the earth is experiencing, then that can allow us to sort of create that vibration and stay in our light, our authentic light, and bring that light. Because when you open the door, when you have connected doors, as Cryon has said, you don't end up having this darkness rush into the other room. It's the light rushes into the other room and illuminates that. So really, if we can do our best to stay in our light, then that can have a greater effect on the collective shadow.
Well, it is like you're talking about self-awareness, but the other thing for me is I think you've said that sometimes feeling disillusioned isn't necessarily a bad thing.
It's not.
And that really, I think in itself, is a misconception in a lot of ways. But how does that support the greater whole? How does feeling disillusioned help us with that? I know what it's done for me personally, but I'd love to hear what you have to say about it.
The disillusionment can serve us in a couple of different ways. First of all, and I know I talked about this on the last show, it can help us to understand what it is we want. Like, we're disillusioned with maybe the state of politics in the United States, or perhaps it's with the horrors of war or the horrors of terrorism. So first and foremost, that disillusionment is communicating to us not that we're defeated, but rather that we care and that we care deeply. It can also, if we're feeling disillusioned, there's an aspect of it where we kind of let go. Like, oh darn, it's like, I've been working so hard trying to do my thing to bring positive stuff into the world, and this is where we're at. Like, wow. And that letting go, again, is that sweet spot, and that vibration of change, that vibrational, energetic acceptance of what is, in some sense. Even if we're really disillusioned with it and we don't like it, it's that letting go that allows things to change. And also, if enough people get disillusioned, if you communicate that disillusionment to others, it is saying, hey, guys, wow, you feel disillusioned too. You must care deeply too. And what can we create together?
Yeah. The word disillusionment it's really a fascinating, I think it's a fascinating word.
It is.
Are you shocked that it's being used so often now in our popular culture?
It's perfect, because when you think about the shadow side getting illuminated, and when we've believed certain things about our world, or we've had attachment to our world, like looking a particular way when in fact it's not that way, then you bring the light to the darkness and you can see what's there that you didn't think was there before. That's the breaking of illusion, and it's absolutely perfect. It's a step towards healing the collective shadow, because really, the shadow is just projecting aspects of ourselves into our society. It's actually sort of helping us to see what still exists in some horrific forms and sometimes some pretty crazy, silly forms that we need to heal. And when you're healing the shadow personally, it's about the awareness. It's about understanding where the woundedness comes from. And it's about embracing that on some level so that it can heal. But it's not about acceptance in terms of like, okay, well, it's okay behavior. It's about saying, all right, well, here's where the woundedness comes from, and here are the boundaries that need to be created based on that. There are natural consequences to what gets illuminated. If you can stay in your light, it's like, okay, well, this kind of behavior is not acceptable in our world, and this is what we need to do. And that could, relate to action. It could relate to, putting people behind bars. It could relate to sort of, being more obvious, verbally in terms of protest, whatever. Like, this is not something we're going to stand for because this is not the world we want to create.
Yeah. Do you find that people are expressing what they feel more now than they have in the past decades? And someone said to me, well, Pat, I think it's all you 70s, 60, 70 people that are speaking out again. And I said, no, I don't think it is. I think we're taking a lesson from the lesson book from a younger population. Mm-hmm. Are they helping us lead the way in the spirit of, shall I call it, empowerment?
Well, I think it's a double-edged sword, Pat, because I think that in some sense they're not afraid of saying what's on their mind. When you look in social media and you look at the 20-somethings speaking their truth, it's like, wow, I would never say that. And so they don't have that fear. However, I also think that there's this disconnect from their feelings in some sense. It's kind of like there's this perception of, I don't want to put up with that. I don't like the world this way, whatever. But they don't allow themselves the sadness. They get themselves into this place of defeatism sometimes, as opposed to just disillusionment and, okay, how do we want to shift this? Let's take action. So it's really a mixed thing. But I do think that because they don't have the same kind of programming and the same kind of fear, they could really lead the way in transforming our world.
Well, I so appreciate this conversation today. When we come back, let's talk about this. Let's talk about the world we want to create. Is it within our reach? Is it within our reach? When you hear somebody say, not in this lifetime, how does that make you feel? Stay tuned. We're going to talk about that and much more when we come back. The world we want to create. Yep. What if it were just an arm's length away? Stay tuned. We'll be right back.
Tune in to the Psychic Professors Show, The Voices of Spirit Radio, with international medium and spirit artist Dr. Susan Barnes on Transformation Talk Radio, featuring a variety of spiritual topics such as psychic art, spiritualism, EVP, psychic development, and mediumship. This hit call-in show provides listeners with breakthrough wisdom to enliven and enlighten their lives. Visit spiritartgallery.net for show days and times.
Tune in to Lucid Planet Radio with Dr. Kelly Neff. This hit show will illuminate your senses and empower you beyond your daily stressors and hardships. Renowned psychologist and author Dr. Kelly will captivate you with far-reaching topics and amazing guests as you wake to the greatest version of yourself. Learn to tap into your intuitions, think critically about our world, heal emotional and psychological wounds, and follow your passions to live your dreams. The Lucid Planet. Welcome home. Visit lucidplanetradio.com for more information.
Thrive is what we experience when our mind, body, and soul operate as one. When we thrive, we excel on all levels. Thrive is the mindset that matters. It is essential to our being. Have you ever found yourself looking for the instruction manual on how to thrive? You'll find everything you need to help you feel strong, powerful, and peaceful in your own body. So don't waste any more time. Visit thrivebyjen.com today.
TheAngelLady.net. 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 1-800-323-1790. 1-800-323-1790. Sue Storm, theangellady.net.
Brand consultant Jen Morgan is here with Radically Distinct Radio to help you take control of your future and maximize your brand's power to produce results. Whether you're an individual trying to reinvent yourself and launch a new venture, or you're an executive trying to reposition your company to modernize your sales and marketing programs, Jen Morgan and the RAD Method empower you to play to your strengths and show up in the world as your most powerful brand. To learn more, go to jenmorgan.com. That's Jen with 2 N's, Morgan.com, or call 206-972-5366.
Tune in to Mainstream Metaphysics Radio to harness your connection with the universe to effect change for optimal success and happiness. Named one of the country's top psychics, Eve now brings her insights and gifts to this weekly hit call-in show, joined by visionaries, leaders, and gifted others, but mostly you. Jot it down, Thursdays, 10 a.m. Pacific, 1 p.m. Eastern on TransformationTalkRadio.com.
Hey everyone, welcome back. It's so great to have all of you tuning us in and turning us on. And you know what I want to say? You know, it is an honor to actually be here with Christine Upchurch and the amazing work that she is doing in the world. And today's topic, of course, is something that she personally has lived through. And that's why she can talk about it so well. You know, it is making a difference in a crazy world. And, you know, Christine, I love that we were just talking about what it's like to enter that state of neutrality. Yeah. I know we're going to be talking about the world we want to create. Do you think that we actually get that insight about the world we want to create?
Oh, gosh. I think what we get lots of insight about is what we don't want. Honestly,
thank you.
There's so much energy put into what we don't want that we keep recreating it. You know, it's this vicious cycle because you know, what do they say? Reality goes where energy flows. You know, the sort of thing. Mm-hmm. It's like we keep focusing on what we don't want, but it's actually a wonderful opportunity for us because if we pay attention to how we are reacting to a certain situation, okay, let's say, for instance, and there are many people, you know, on this list who really want, say, you know, Trump impeached. Let's say that. Mm-hmm. Okay, I want him out of there, they might say. You know, he needs to go now, and here are the reasons why. And let's say all those reasons are correct. You know, there's a lot of information in the media right now that suggests that he has broken some rules, right? Mm-hmm. Okay. So they focus on resist, impeach, this, and really, if you come from this place of neutrality instead and say, you know what? Here's our democracy. Here are the rules, and they're based on some very important principles, and he's crossed these boundaries here. He's crossed this boundary, and therefore he needs to face the natural consequences. Mm-hmm. Or, you know, if it relates to ISIS or whatever. It's like it's not an easy path, but we need to look at things in terms of how do I stay fairly neutral, kind of like a parent with a child who's done something, you know, that's against the rules.
Yeah.
And have some compassion. I mean, you think about somebody who blows himself up to make a statement. What kind of pain must that person have been in to do something like that? Yes, it's evil personified, and yet that evil is based on some disconnection from the divine, some twisted perspective on our reality and what is in God's name, you know. We often will react from our woundedness one way or another, and if we can sort of get into that place of neutrality and say, okay, so what is it that's really fair and loving and right in this world that would help create peace? And what's happening to destroy that, or what's happening to, you know, prevent that? And how do we set boundaries, collective boundaries, so that we can implement that? And yes, it does. It may involve some things that are, you know, complex, and in some cases there's going to be violence in the world because of it. But if we can just sort of get back to this place of, instead of the blame and shame, like, isn't this sad? Because really, under that blame and shame stuff is really our deep sadness about it. And say, okay, this really triggers me. I'm feeling really sad. And here's the boundary I want to draw.
I love what we're talking about. And here's the boundary we want to draw. Listen, this is so important. We're finding information about harassment going on in the workplace, bullying. Oh my gosh. I just looked at some new statistics on bullying, 8-year-old committing suicide. I mean, it's kind of like, this is an old school idea that I'm so glad you brought forth, to know where our limits are, to know, listen, this is the end of my hula hoop, so to speak.
Right.
This is now getting in a space close to me that I don't want here. But what do I do with that? How do I just say, that is not going to work for me? Isn't that the challenge?
It's a real challenge, and it's, that old expression, not my circus, not my monkeys, or the other way around. It's there is craziness that we really should detach from completely, because it's not in our best interest to be shining our light in that direction. But each of us will know on a deep, deep level, on a soul level, about what we're supposed to be focusing on and what action we might want to take. Because, yes, where we are at in terms of our consciousness, where we're at in terms of our inner peace, greatly affects the world, and probably the most important way of all. And yet, showing up to help set the boundaries with the light often will involve action. So for some, it will be, okay, well, I need to help the animals who are abused in the world. And for others, it will be, I need to be calling my representatives and my senators to talk to them about the importance of health care. Whatever it is, you'll know what's really important, and where you're taking action will actually make you feel energized, as opposed to making you feel depleted. It's like, how do you show up for yourself within the context of helping move the collective along?
Yeah. This topic today, first of all, it's timely. Secondly, it comes in the wake of a devastated terrorism attack in the UK.
Yeah.
So we don't have to really guess about whether or not it's a crazy world. But isn't it like the story in the airplane? We have to put our oxygen masks on first.
Absolutely. The self-care and the focusing on what it is we need for ourselves and in our local world, to be able to shine our light brightly, to be able to live that vibrant light, that vibrant life, shining our light, is the most essential thing. And I do believe that those of us who've been in the consciousness movement for a long time also understand now is the time to also speak up more in peaceful, loving ways, but to be setting those boundaries and to show up through action in various ways.
Wow, thank you so much. Please tell us tell us who your guest is for this week, and again, how folks can find out more about you. And I would love to know your personal message.
Jacob Nordby is on Friday. He is absolutely fabulous. Blessed Are the Weird is the title of his book, and he is just filled with wisdom. You can reach me, and you can get into my radio show archives, read my blogs, look at some of the videos and interviews on my website, ChristineUpchurch.com. I'm here to support you. It is my mission to help make this a better world by sharing whatever wisdom is coming through me, and by being present with you, because it really, I understand that a lot of you are going through things that I've gone through and am going through, and if we can sort of stand up for each other and stand beside each other, that it can really help transform the world. And I think that what's so important for us right now, Pat, is to open our hearts, including to the pain that we feel, and showing up for each other, and to know that when we're feeling like the world is totally crazy, that we matter. What we deal with within ourselves and how we show up in the world makes a difference throughout the entire world.
Wow. Christine Upchurch, everyone. Wow, what a great show. Thank you, Christine. Awesome.
Thank you, Pat.
And just so you know, we're going to take a short break. When we come back, stay tuned for Rewired Life Radio with Audrey Michelle. And then at 1 o'clock, special edition for us in this month, Lyme Disease Awareness Month, Lyme Talk Radio with me, Lyme Madness. You'll want to catch that show. All right, everyone, thank you. We'll see you next time.
The preceding audio was via a Skype call.